Greece is facing accusations it didn't do enough to prevent the latest migrant tragedy in the Mediterranean. Dozens are dead and hundreds are missing after a boat packed with people in terrible conditions sunk. So who was responsible? Welcome to the program. I'm Philip Hampshire. The fishing trawler that capsized as it was traveling from Libya to Italy was packed with Pakistanis, Egyptians, Syrians, Afghans, and Palestinians. The majority were seeking refuge in Europe. Instead, they found tragedy.
Rescuers scoured the seas off Greece following the shipwreck. They found dozens of the dead. However, the UN says around 500 people are still missing. Those on board were reportedly mainly from Syria, Pakistan and Egypt. UN human rights spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said,
"The only way we're going to get safe pathways, the only way we're going to avoid people going on these perilous journeys, the only way we're going to get criminal gangs out of this equation is if countries of origin, countries of transit and countries of destination work together."
Some reports suggest that the ship had stopped moving for 7 hours before it capsized. However, amid accusations that they were too slow to act, Greek coastguards claim that the boat was still on course for Italy from Libya. The EU's border coastguard agency, Frontex, said, "We immediately informed the Greek and Italian authorities about the sighting, providing them with information about the condition of the vessel, speed and photos." So who should be held responsible for preventing these tragedies? The EU as a whole or individual countries?
So let's meet our guests here in the studio. I'm joined by Kez Siddiqui, who's an immigration and human rights lawyer. He was also once a refugee himself. Meanwhile, in Athens, Yonis Mohammadi, who is a member of the EU Commission expert group on the views of migration at the European Commission, and he's director at the Greek Forum of Refugees. And in Venice, in Italy, I'm joined by Beppe Caccia, who is the head of operations at Mediterranean Saving Humans. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. Kez, I'm going to start with you, if I can. How would you describe what happened in Greece and this current awful situation with the boat and potentially 500 lives lost? Because 500 people are missing, on top of another 100 people they already know have died.
Well, from a legal perspective, this is something that we have been advocating for a very long time, that this is something that's inevitably going to be happening on such a large scale, and it's only going to get worse. But it's highlighted the importance of international collaboration between states so that we can reduce the number of these tragedies from ever happening. And yes, this is something that we believed was inevitably going to be happening. And at the moment, everything is unclear. We don't know what has happened.
They're still investigating.
They're still investigating, yes. So then an investigation will be carried out, and hopefully the truth will come to light, and we can prosecute the people who are responsible for this horrible attack.
Beppe, what went through your mind when you heard about this situation?
Clearly, the tragic event of Pylos, which happened in international waters, but only 40 nautical miles off the Greek shores, is something that was caused, as a few months ago, a similar shipwreck off the Italian coasts of Cutro by the European migration policies. First of all, is the fact that people have no legal and safe channels, passages to enter within the European border. That is causing the fact that people is forced to go to traffickers and to organize such a dangerous journey towards Europe. But second of all, more specifically, it's quite clear that the shipwreck of Pylos was also something with a direct, specific responsibility of the Greek authorities. We have collected several testimonies of survivors that described a criminal attitude, a criminal behavior by the Greek Coast Guard. On the first place, the fact that there was a lot of hours spent between the first alert that was from several sources in the morning of the day before the shipwreck. And in any case, the intervention of the Greek Coast Guard was too late. And
Beppe, hold on there for a second, because I've got to bring in and introduce Yunus as well. We'll come back to that. I want to be very clear. The investigation is currently ongoing into exactly what happened out there on the sea. There are different narratives. Obviously, Beppe, in your opinion, there has been criminal behavior that has happened. Yunus, how do you feel about what happened? Do you agree with Beppe?
Yes, of course, Mr. Gacha explained very well that I agree that, yes, of course, generally it is the European policy which is responsible. And secondly, of course, it was the water and also the responsibility of Greek authorities that they had plenty of time in order to do and to rescue people. Unfortunately, there is a kind of unwilling. We don't see actually a kind of willing, not just from Greek authorities and also other European borders, which is Italy, Spain, and other countries that try to shift the responsibility to the others, and it is actually the problem. Of course, there are investigations are going on, and we hope that there would be a serious investigation. Because from the first that it was happened, we see that Greek authorities and coast guards, they are changing what they say. And from the first day till now, they have changed many times the way that they are explaining what they did. So it means that there is something that happened that even the Greek authorities, they try to not explain it exactly what happened.
Of course, you've worked with the European Union with regards to these things. This is not the first time an incident of this nature has occurred. So how have we not got safeguards in place already up until now? What is the stumbling block? What is stopping different countries in the Mediterranean region from having a very clear process for how to deal with these kinds of situations so that a tragedy like this doesn't happen?
So what should be done? I think it is somehow it is clear that a colleague from Italy said that of course there should be especially safe passage for those who need international protections, and of course there should be a global cooperation and international cooperation in terms of how to manage people not forced to leave their homelands, which is internationally it should be happen. In European level, unfortunately, yes, I am an expert at the expert group of European Commission, which we are in somehow connecting the European Commission with grassroots that I'm representing Greek Forum of Refugee and Refugee Communities. I am with refugee background from Afghanistan, which I came also through this refugee journey here in Europe. So in European level also we see that a kind of militarization of borders without thinking of safe passage, without thinking of what will happen with the countries that people have to leave their country, and also the countries that they are coming through, like Turkey, Italy, and other countries. Unfortunately, of course, what we see in European level, it is a kind of even thinking of externalization of these responsibilities, which is really dangerous for Europe. And we see actually that all thinking and all even budgets are going to how militarize borders, which is not the solutions, which is actually give opportunities more to the traffickers in order to get more monies and peoples who need protection, they risk their lives more and more with dangerous ways. That is very clear. That unfortunately in Europe, especially most of the member states, they are with a strict policy of closing borders and pushing people back and not letting them to access to asylum system, which European Union itself they have created this asylum system according to the international and European norms and laws and human rights.
Kez, let me bring this across to you. You are a lawyer by your day trade, so responsibility is a big part of what you look for. Who had responsibility in this situation as far as you are concerned?
Well, I mean, the issue...
Or is that part of the difficulty? It's so muddy.
It is so muddy, and it's diabolical the way the states have been passing the buck to another. And the only reason that we can think of is the fact that they do not want to take responsibility of the asylum seekers into their system. But at the end of the day, we have to bear in mind that these are human lives, and these are individuals who are putting everything at risk to find a safe passage and sanctuary, in essence, and protection from whatever persecution they're suffering from in their home countries. But that's not how they're looking at it. They're just looking at them as numbers. And much closer home, we saw only in November 2021 across the English Channel where 30 people unfortunately passed away, including children as young as 5 years old. And the narrative that has been portrayed by the world leaders, especially by the Home Secretary in the UK, is that deterrent, to be a deterrent for other people. But we don't need a deterrent, we need a solution. The solution, as the other guest speakers have also said, is that a safe passage, safe legal routes, because these individuals, they will come to the UK, no matter how, either safe or unsafe, they will come to the UK. So why not create a safe legal route to reduce and minimize the lives that are being lost through these perilous and dangerous journeys? So that's the issue that we're having, is that they're not listening to people who are there at the forefront of it and dealing with these individuals on a personal level. So they're not taking that into account, and they're just proceeding with their own agendas by deterring people and appealing to certain dynamics or demographics of individuals. And we, throughout, like we've been, as I said last year, with the Nationality and Borders Act 2022 that was introduced by Priti Patel, we were promised that it will reduce the number of people crossing over by boats. But the numbers have increased, they've skyrocketed indeed. And only last year we saw 45,000 individuals crossing by illegal boats.
What do you think's behind the increase? Because apart from Ukraine, obviously, but we can sort of strip Ukraine as a special situation out from the numbers, is there another war that's kicked off somewhere else, or is there a particular dictatorship that's been pressing down on an ethnic group and that's why the numbers have risen? Is there any indication for where the pressure has come from for increased migration to Europe?
Well, we've seen, obviously, with the Afghan individuals after the Taliban takeover, we've seen a large number of Afghans crossing over, and Albanians as well. And it's well known that Albanian individuals are more likely to have been trafficked, especially women. So the numbers, it doesn't matter whether they're increased or not. These are people who are in genuine need of protection, and the cases should be considered on a subjective basis. But instead, they're being penalized. And as I said, they wanted to deter individuals, but more individuals are coming and putting their lives at risk. And with this illegal migration bill as well, they are further criminalizing and penalizing individuals, even children who are being considered for detention for 28 days, which should not be the case.
Let me take this over to Beppe. Beppe, who do you think should bear responsibility in this situation? Or do you think that it's been purposefully muddied so nobody can be held liable, as it were?
Let's say that there are some measures that could be taken immediately. And first of all, ending with this no assistance policy of the Greek as well of the Maltese authorities. As you know, the attempt by Malta or Athens is every time wait for a migrants boat arriving in the search and rescue region of Italian responsibility in order not to take their responsibility in the Maltese or Greek area. regarding the increase of the numbers of arrivals, in the case of Italy, we have to say that this is due by the general food, economic, and social crisis in Africa, and more specifically by the Tunisian situation, where the Kashef Sayed regime is pushing out of Tunisia a large number of sub-Saharan people living there. As well, the increase of departures from Libya related to the terrible conditions of migrants on the Libyan mainland. So, first of all, stop non-assistant policies. The European Union member states, the Western states, have to assume fully their responsibilities and change the order of priorities. Now, the priority for the European institutions, for the European states, is the struggle against illegal immigration. The priority has instead to be the safeguard of the human life at sea. First, protect the life of people, then we will discuss about borders.
Okay, well, on a similar note to that, I've got a quote here from the former Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras. Here's what he had to say.
Why is it when authorities see, locate, approach an overcrowded ship with 700 or more people ready to sink in an emergency, what are the protocols of Frontex, protocols of the Greek authorities, follow that don't demand its rescue, but allow it to continue its course?
Okay, Yannis, so that's Alexis Tsipras there saying he is the ex-Greek Prime Minister, and he's saying, well, I don't understand how the Greek Coast Guard knew this was out there, didn't go out and follow protocols to bring them in. What do you think happened in this situation?
Of course, in this incident also, they didn't follow all these criteria, and the only willing that the Greek authorities and the Coast Guard they had, it is always they have that how to stop people to come to Greece and how to push them back. It is what we believe and what we hear from the witnesses that they are coming to our office and to the communities, and we believe that it is and this process also were not followed by the authorities, and we believe that if there was really a willing and also a try from the authorities and also a cooperation with other coast guards at the region, and this incident would not happen. That is very clear. And
can I just ask, hold on a second. Who do you think has the responsibility, though, to investigate into this and to ensure that everybody does the right thing? Does that happen at a national level and, say, the Greek government gets their own authorities in there to investigate the accident? Or should the European Union be getting involved at this point because it sits above the fray of the national governments who have political pressures on them at the end of the day?
So that's another question, really an important question, that who will get this investigation going on? That actually, what I can say, that at least it should be from a European level, this investigation that actually what happened. And then, unfortunately, it is very clear, I think, that such policies of member states at the European borders, most of the time, this policy of pushbacks and violation of refugee and asylum laws are in somehow applauded by European policy, even by European Commission most of the time. So it is what is happening, and we try to escape from our responsibility, which is either at European level, either at national level, unfortunately.
Right, Kez, let me bring this across to you. Again, from a legal standpoint, national governments are in quite a difficult position here, politically speaking. Do we have national regulators then investigate these kinds of accidents, or do we need supranational bodies? The UN has already sort of laid into this row, as it were, but I assume the European Union is the appropriate authority.
I believe so, because it should be an independent body who investigates this, and there shouldn't be a national investigation. A national investigation can be undertaken, but on a more larger scale, an independent inquiry should be made, and so that independent outcomes can be achieved, more fair and balanced outcomes can be achieved, rather than a more focused and biased sort of outcomes.
Now, you went through the refugee process yourself, albeit obviously many decades ago. You went from Afghanistan, I believe, to the Netherlands. In your experience of talking to refugees and having been through the situation yourself, do accidents like this discourage refugees, for want of a better way of putting it, because they see people dying at sea and then they go, well, I'll take the land route then, or maybe I won't go? This seems to be, in some ways, the intentional desire of European governments is to make the process so nasty, so horrible, so dangerous that the refugees don't come.
Well, migration, we have to look at it, has always been happening throughout history. But these individuals, they're not just migrating for the fun of it. They are individuals who are actually need protection. They are being persecuted. So they're finding any way possible to get to where they think that they might get protection. So these deterrents are not going to put them off. They will find ways to get where they need to find protection and safety. So that's what I've earlier said, that these deterrents are not working. We need to find a solution. We have put these deterrents into place and they have not worked. So we have to look at alternatives. And the alternatives is safe legal routes, which we've been advocating for a very long time, and they are simply not listening to us. So from a personal perspective, I haven't gone through these perilous journeys. I joined my family on a family reunion route. But that in itself was a traumatic experience for me. And so I can only imagine what it's like for children and women.
And just to be clear, you still would have been in the camps while you were being processed?
Absolutely. So I lived in the refugee camp, so I know what it's like. And it's a horrible experience in itself. So I can only imagine what these other individuals who have gone through this tragedy are going through. It can have a sort of negative effect on someone's psyche throughout their lives. So we need to prevent this as best as we can and as safe as we can.
Beppe, 700 people on one ship. You obviously deal with this kind of situation quite a lot, unfortunately, from your perspective. What's that like, 700 people on one ship?
It means that no security and no safety requirements could be accomplished. Any ship overcrowded, as happened to this big fishing vessel departing from the eastern Libya, is in danger. Any authority have to consider that a ship in such conditions cannot sail out. So they have to rescue it immediately without delays and with the proper protocols. It means, for example, not towing that kind of ship because it is unstable and it could in any moment capsize. That is probably what happened in that terrible night of Pylos. So, but the problem is, again, I totally agree with the other friends today. The problem are the European institution and member state policies. Today is the International Day of Refugees, of Political Asylum. This is the day of hypocrisy all around the world, and particularly in Europe. Because in the same moment when the European member states, the European institutions are celebrating this day, in the same moment they are daily attacking, and in perspective they want to dismantle the right of asylum in Europe. And we have instead to protect this right, to protect the people and to implement politically and materially this right.
I'm afraid to say that that's all we have time for today's programme. But remember, you can see more discussion and debate if you head on over to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me here and the entire team, thank you for watching and goodbye.